Hello, as you can see now, this video is branded as Hocus Focus After Hours. These will be videos that will deal with Fortean and similar topics and other mysteries that are part of the overall Hocus Focus family. And I'll be making them both on this channel Beyond Route 313, and Sarah will be making them on her own Sarah Mondaini channel, Wuthering Nights on YouTube as well. So it's just to sort of keep Hocus Focus topics going through the month in between the broadcast of each show. So there's always a Hocus Focus toe in the water, so to speak. So what I want to talk today about is something that happened again regarding the Men in Black story. Now, you saw my recent video and it got a lot of interest, was the Men in Black video. And I was talking this with some friends yesterday. And one of my friends, two of them actually, they're a married couple who've lived in County Sligo here since the 80s. They're from Dublin originally, like me. And they told me about a Men in Black experience they had, and it was one of the most remarkable I've ever heard. Now, Men in Black experiences don't always revolve around the sightings of UFOs and, you know, what people perceive as being alien spacecraft. They are connected also to aspects of high strangeness and so on. And I gave you my experience last week of how it happened to me. There was no UFO or aliens involved. It was me doing a TV show on Milton Keynes in England and what happened afterwards. So Milton Keynes is a remarkably strange place. It has like alignments with like solstice and other things like that. There's a place called Midsummer Avenue or Midsummer Boulevard or something like that, and it's aligned with the sun on Midsummer's Day. So it's laid out across very much geomantic designs, even though it's a modern city. So what was the story my friend told me yesterday? It was mind-blowing, and I've got their permission to actually tell you now, but I'm not going to use their names because to protect their identity. But I see them all the time. I know them. They're really good people, and they don't make up stories. And in 1987, they purchased or ate 2 lamb chops. And when they were finished the chops, I think they were left in a plate or somewhere before they were washed the next day or later that evening. And the light was switched off in the kitchen. And when they walked in, the lamb chops were glowing luminous. The bones were glowing a luminous color. They were lighting up in the dark. Now, their first reaction was, understandably, that there was some kind of industrial or chemical pollutant that had caused the bones on the sheep bones to you know emit a light to give off light. And they somehow contacted the media and ended up on national TV in Ireland. And the way they described how they were filmed on TV was that the bones were laid out on a table with a candle beside it. And the lady who was the main person who experienced this was telling me that it was like a ritual or something, a magician's table. And they were interviewed by a very famous TV reporter for national TV. And under the guise that they were worried that they had consumed something. Remember, this wasn't long after Chernobyl and all that radiation had drifted across Europe, under the assumption that there was some kind of industrial chemical or something the sheep had ingested that they possibly would have ingested themselves. So from what I gather, the TV crew filmed them and it went out on national media in Ireland whenever, a few days later. Soon after, there was a knock on the door and 2 men in black approached the lady, the wife in question, and warned her in a classic sort of bureaucratic Men in Black style not to tell anybody or speak of this anymore. The sheep that glowed in the dark, the bone that glowed in the dark. And she was very disturbed, naturally, and because they live in a rural area with a long driveway to the house, she didn't know who these people were. She didn't see a car approaching or anything or hear it. And that was that. And apparently the whole story just died. It was never on, it was never pursued. It just nothing ever came of it. And she was perturbed in the same way that people said to me on the last video, how come you didn't go up to the guy and talk to them? I can tell you for a fact, there's a strange sense of dissociation happens when you encounter these men in black entities, whatever they are. And it's the uncanny valley thing that comes in. Now, the uncanny valley is a part of the human psychology, the cognition, that when it sees something it doesn't recognize or it can't comprehend, it kind of goes into a kind of an alpha wave state, and it kind of switches off because the brain can't cognitively process what it's seeing. And that's what happens with the Men in Black experience. You want to badger them, and also similar Men in Black type entities, such as the Phantom Social Worker entity, which I cover on a video on this channel here, Beyond Route 313, if you search through the archives, and things like the Black-Eyed Children. Everyone says, well, how come you didn't do something about it? Because the uncanny valley experience puts you into a kind of a weird sense of dissociation, where things you would normally do or might normally try to do are switched off somehow, and you just sort of sit there almost like you're hypnotized, and you deal with it. And then later on you go, what was that? This kind of thing. And this only happened to me a couple of times in my life. There's another story regarding an encounter I had with a hare, which I had about 20 years ago. I'll tell you about another video. But in this one, I'm concentrating on what happened to my friends. Now, within Irish occultism and British English occultism, actually probably common in Northern Europe, people often put sheep bones in their houses to protect from evils, hexes, spirits, curses, and so on. In fact, in my book Sorcery, I start the book off by describing how, while they were excavating a ferry fort on the north side of Dublin, near Dublin Airport, at the same time, two houses were being renovated, two Georgian houses were being renovated on Ainger Street in the city centre. And sheep bones and a child's shoe was found in the floorboards. It was very common to put a sheep bone or sheep bones all around the house in the olden days to ward off evil spirits, evil forces, curses, and hexes, along with a single child's shoe. No one knows why the sheep bone was used. No one can really tell. And even in the Pendle Witches film I did with Neil MacDonald, there was a strange Easter Sunday feast that involved the sheep and the whole concept of the Lamb of God and things like that. That was very peculiar in the old, context of that story. Is it possible that there is under certain conditions that our ancient ancestors saw the same luminescent effect? Now, assuming it wasn't an industrial thing, but if it was, other people in the area would have seen it. It didn't happen anywhere else. That this luminescence caused by something, even if it was naturally occurring, would definitely be seen as a magical experience to our ancestors if they saw these sheep bones. If there was some fungus or something that caused it to become bioluminescent or something like that, it would still be seen as magical and powerful, a bone that lights up in the dark, especially if it was just one particular species, a sheep. And they may have believed there was a culture may have developed around that. But that still doesn't explain the Man in Black experience. And it's a classic Man in Black experience. When you talk about it publicly on the media, whether it's a UFO sighting, John Keel covers it very well. There's plenty of good books on it. It's usually after someone makes a report about seeing a UFO, and within a few days, they're visited by these Men in Black. And in fact, there's a famous UFO experience that happened in the 1990s in County Roscommon, on the County Roscommon-Curlew Mountains border, that affected mainly the town of Boyle in County Roscommon. And it's a very strange, very X-Files-y event, that whole thing that happened. But people in town have told me that there were visitations by strange men who were very bureaucratic, formal in government, who spoke in a monotonal way, exactly as my friend in Sligo had experienced this thing in 1987 regarding going on the media concerning a luminous sheep bone. So that's the story. Men in Black showed up after they went on TV expressing concerns that there might have been an industrial or radioactive problem with the meat in Sligo among livestock animals caused by Chernobyl or some industrial other element. And it brought the Men in Black to their front door, which I find amazing because firstly, it shows me that it wasn't an industrial thing. And there was, and might give us a clue at last to why people in this part of the world put sheep bones in their homes as a magical protection. Don't forget, Hocus Focus, the first Sunday of every month, the new episode coming soon, and the Hocus Focus book will be released in the first week of September. Okay, until the next Hocus Focus after hours, either on this channel or on Sarah's channel, stay strange. And let us know in the comments what you think about this. Take care, bye.